Hello everyone, this is Paul from SpanishWithPaul.com, and I'm very happy to be back with you all again for another Spanish lesson. I'm going to be referencing things that we learned in my free 10-part mini course series on YouTube. So if you haven't been through that yet, I've put a link for you on the screen now, and also another one in the description box below this video. In this lesson, we're going to focus on sentence building, and we're going to build sentences in Spanish in the past, the present, and the future. As always, I would like you to not simply sit back and listen passively, but you'll get much better results if you interact with the lesson. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and when I do, I'd like you to pause the video and think out your own answers, because you really will get much better results from doing that. Now remember, at this level of learning Spanish, speed doesn't really matter. It's not what we're concerned with. Only getting it right matters. So please take your time and don't rush it. If becoming fluent in conversational Spanish is one of your goals for this year, then consider clicking the link above to download my free course books that go along with all of my YouTube lessons. You can also subscribe to my channel to get a brand new Spanish lesson from me every single Monday. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Something we like to say a lot in English is that we'll do our best. For example, I'll do my best, I did my best, I'm doing the best I can. You can only do your best. Now, we can express all of these same things in Spanish, but it works slightly differently. Let's take the example of I do my best. Now, you could also say, I do the best that I can. And this is exactly what you will say literally in Spanish. So whenever in English you have I do my best, what you will literally say in Spanish is I do the best that I can. So it's a longer, more extended way of expressing it. First of all, we have I do, which in Spanish is hago. It's a really nice sound. The H is silent. So your pronunciation just starts from here, hago. This means I do. Now to say I do the best would be hago lo mejor. Notice the H sound over here, over the J, mejor. So I do the best, hago lo mejor. Now to complete the phrase, I do the best that I can, it would be hago lo mejor que puedo. So we have literally, I do the best that I can. Hago lo mejor que puedo. So now I'd like you to build it. How do you say I do? Hago. I do the best. Hago lo mejor. I do the best that I can. Hago lo mejor que puedo. Now remember, in English, we'll often shorten this to simply, I do my best. But in Spanish, it's longer. What you literally say is, I do the best that I can. So let's practice. What's the word for every day? Todos los días. If you said cada día, that's also correct, but it means each day. For every day, what they literally say is all the days. Todos los días. Now, how would you say, I do my best every day? Hago lo mejor que puedo todos los días. What's the word for always? Siempre. Now, if we want to express, I always do my best. In Spanish, this word always will come at the very front of the sentence. So try to translate this one now. Siempre hago lo mejor que puedo. Now try this one. I always do my best every day. Siempre hago lo mejor que puedo todos los días. These kinds of statements or phrases are often very useful in everyday conversation. For example, you can be talking with a native Spanish speaker, and they might say to you, "You speak Spanish very well." In which case you could reply, "Thank you, I do my best." How would you say that? Gracias. Hago lo mejor que puedo. What I'd like to do now is go into the past and express I did my best. Now we're going to have the same structure. In English, we'll say I did my best, but in Spanish, you'll get that same longer version. I did the best that I could. So this is what you will literally say in Spanish in order to express this in English. I did the best that I could. So let's try to build it. First of all, I did. The sound in Spanish is hice. Notice that just like hago, the H is not pronounced. So our pronunciation starts here, and the sound is hice. Now, how would you say I did the best? Hice lo mejor. For the second part, that I could, the sound is que pude. Que pude. So, putting it all together, I did the best that I could. It would be hice lo mejor que pude. We have two sound differences from the present tense. First of all, I did, hice, and I could, pude. So, the phrase is hice lo mejor que pude. Now you try to build it. How do you say I did? Hice. I did the best. Hice lo mejor that I could. Que pude. I did the best that I could. Hice lo mejor que pude. Let's contrast that with the present tense. Once again, how do you say I do my best? Hago lo mejor que puedo. Now, I did my best. Hice lo mejor que pude. How do you say for you? Para ti. Now say, I did my best for you. Hice lo mejor que pude para ti. What about I always did my best for you? Siempre hice lo mejor que pude para ti. Notice that once again, the word always got put at the front of the sentence. Next up, I'd like to extend into longer sentences. So we can do this very easily simply by adding verbs to the framework. For example, the verb to convince in Spanish is convencer. So we have three syllables, con, ben, ser. Notice that in the English spelling we have an I here, but this changes into an E sound in Spanish, convencer. To express something like to convince him, you'll take the verb convencer and you'll tag on the pronoun of lo. This lo stands for him. So the sound together we get is convencerlo. To convince him. Convencerlo. On the other hand, if we want to express to convince her, we change the pronoun to la. So the sound becomes convencerla. Once again, how would you say to convince him? Convencerlo. To convince her, convencerla. How do you say I did my best? Hice lo mejor que pude. Now, if we want to say I did my best to convince him, this to in English implies in order to. So we can also say I did my best in order to convince him. Now, whenever this happens, in Spanish you will use the word para. So, I did my best to convince him would then become hice lo mejor que pude para convencerlo. Literally, I did the best that I could in order to convince him. How would you say I did my best to convince her? Hice lo mejor que pude para convencerla. Let's try using another verb. We have here to stop. And you have a few options for verbs when it comes to expressing to stop in Spanish. But the one we're going to use is detener. Notice that we have the verb tener, which we're already very well used to. It's just that we're putting de in front of it. So the sound is detener. How would you say to stop him? Detenerlo. To stop her? Detenerla. Let's throw in another one. The pronoun for them will be los. So how would you say to stop them? Detenerlos. Now try this one. I did my best to stop him. Hice lo mejor que pude para detenerlo. I did my best to stop her. Hice lo mejor que pude para detenerla. How would you say I did my best to convince them? Hice lo mejor que pude para convencerlos. I did my best to stop them. Hice lo mejor que pude para detenerlos. One more. I did my best to convince her every day. Put the word every day at the front of the sentence. Todos los días hice lo mejor que pude para convencerla. Going back to the present tense, how do you say I do my best? Hago lo mejor que puedo. I did my best. Hice lo mejor que pude. Now we want to go into the future and say something like, I'm going to do my best. Now in Spanish, to express this, what you will literally say is, I'm going to do the best that I can. So again, we get that longer version. Now you build it. How do you say, I'm going to? Voy a. What's the verb to do? Hacer. I'm going to do. Voy a hacer. I'm going to do the best. Voy a hacer lo mejor. Now, the final bit, that I can. If you said, que puedo, this in Spanish would be heard as a mistake. Because we're projecting into the future, this puedo changes to pueda. And here, what we are actually using is the subjunctive in Spanish. So when you are projecting into the future with this expression, and you want to express that I can, instead of using puedo, you must go into the sound of que pueda. So altogether we have I'm going to do the best that I can. It becomes voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda. How would you say I'm going to do my best for you? Voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda para ti. What's the verb to convince? Convencer. Now, how would you say, I'm going to do my best to convince him? Voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda para convencerlo. What's the verb to stop? Detener. I'm going to do my best to stop her. Voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda para detenerla. We can also imply the future in more subtle ways. For example, how do you say I want? Quiero. Now, to express I want to do my best. Again, in Spanish, this will become I want to do the best that I can. Do you see how this expression is, in a subtle way, also implying that this is a plan for the future? I want to do my best. So, once again, in Spanish, you will have the sound of pueda for I can. This gives us quiero hacer lo mejor que pueda. How would you say I want to do my best for you? Quiero hacer lo mejor que pueda para ti. What's the word for tomorrow? Mañana. And how would you say tomorrow is very important? Mañana es muy importante. Now say, tomorrow is very important and I want to do my best. Mañana es muy importante y quiero hacer lo mejor que pueda. What about tomorrow? I'm going to do my best to convince them. Mañana voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda para convencerlos. One more. Tomorrow, I'm going to do my best to stop them. Mañana voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda para detenerlos. There are two ways to express I know in Spanish. The one we'll use is simply sé. Now, how would you say, because I know that it's very important for you? Porque sé que es muy importante para ti. Now let's try a longer sentence. Tomorrow, I'm going to do my best to convince them because I know it's very important for you. Mañana voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda para convencerlos, porque sé que es muy importante para ti. What we'll do now is run a little mini drill, and this will help you to decide if you need to repeat this lesson a couple more times or not. So let's begin with I do my best. Hago lo mejor que puedo. I do my best for you every day. Hago lo mejor que puedo para ti todos los días. I did my best for you every day. Put this every day at the front of the sentence. Todos los días hice lo mejor que pude para ti. Let's try one more, but this time in the future. I'm going to do my best for you every day. Again, put every day up front. Todos los días voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda para ti. If you're serious about learning Spanish and want to become conversationally fluent, my main course, Spanish with Paul, is live and available for you now. Inside you'll get my complete course, none of which is available on YouTube, and also my personal attention to make sure you achieve conversational fluency in the fastest time possible. In short, if you like my free lessons on YouTube and the results they're giving you, then you'll love what I have for you inside the main course. You can click the link on the screen now to find out all the details. So with that said, I look forward to seeing you again in my next video.